going to be discussing how prepared are we for a continental rollout of digital currencies. We cannot have conversations around financial restructuring without conversations about digital currencies. We can't. We are going to also look at, beyond financial inclusion, are digital currencies likely to enhance monetary policy? How are CBDCs going to work with cryptocurrencies, or are central bankers keen on completely killing cryptocurrencies? We're going to delve into that conversation. And how are we likely to see digital currencies change macroeconomic policy in regards to debt? But first, I'm going to touch on some of the things that we talked about today. These countries you are about to see here, the majority of which are African countries, suspended their external debt payments due to COVID-19. And you can see the majority of these countries are from Africa. In the morning, there were very interesting conversations about some of the issues that we talked about and whether we are treating a symptom and not a problem. Do you want to guess what percentage of manufacturing Africa is responsible for across Africa, across the world? Who wants to take a wild guess before this slide comes up? 10%, 20, 30, 2, 10. Just put the slide up. In balance sheet terms, we are not even a rounding error in the manufacturing balance sheet of the world.
A rounding error.
Let me repeat this. In balance sheet terms, we are not even a rounding error in the world's manufacturing balance sheet. Now we are here discussing about debt. Of course we are going to be discussing about debt every day if we don't solve this issue here. And why are we not solving this issue? I remember during my high school days, we used to be drummed into our heads about comparative advantage. We are moving towards embracing the promise of free trade across Africa. Here is the most embarrassing thing ever. Africa trades more with the world outside Africa than itself. Only 15% intra-Africa trade. Come on, guys. What are we talking about here? The CFTA, this free trade dream for Africa, is starting to happen. This free trade zone, ACTA, is going to be the largest free trade zone in the world. Only second to the World Trade Organization, I think. The million-dollar question, literally, rather the trillion-dollar question, literally, is what are we going to do about it? So let's talk about digital currencies. And let's talk about what that will do. Now, I'm not going to delve into the details. I think we'll talk about that in the conversation. But I want you to take note of this arrow here. Take note of that arrow. And take note of the other so-called currencies. Some of them are what are known as reserve currencies, like the US dollar, the euro, the renminbi is coming up, the UK pound. Look at the circulation of some of those dollars and pounds and euros in relation to Bitcoin. And then you start asking yourself is, why are cryptocurrencies such an enemy of policymakers and regulators? I'm not going to answer that question. Just answer it yourself in your heads, and we can have that conversation as we move along. Look at the adoption rate of cryptocurrencies in the world. Look at Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, up there with everybody else. Yet, our governments don't even want to hear about this. We have a saying in Kenya, and I'm happy to translate it as we move along. Vitu kwa ground ni different. Things on the ground are different. Guys in their ivory towers talk. Guys on the ground are like, you guys continue sleeping. We continue with our work. So, guys, my next slide, I'm going to pass it through, please, because I think Linda did a good job there. But I want to pause for a minute on these new pieces of information across Africa. South Africa's central bank green lights financial institutions to serve crypto. Central Bank of Nigeria to support 10 startups to help grow the e-Naira adoption. Central Bank of Kenya publishes a discussion paper on central bank digital currencies. Bank of Ghana partners with BOG to pilot digital currency in Ghana. I'm going to leave this for you guys to think about, and we can have this conversation. My slide, again, my last slide on the digital currency conversation is how can central bank digital currencies and the crypto ecosystem coexist and thrive for the betterment of Africa? How can the people of Africa and their leaders break the silos and start talking to each other? That's another $1 trillion question. I want to now, next 2 minutes, talk about a phenomenon called DeFi. Who has heard about DeFi? Who's heard DeFi for the first time today? DeFi, first time. All right. So DeFi stands for decentralized finance. Visa, I'm sure most of us have a Visa card in our pockets. Visa is not supposed to be talking like this. Visa is not supposed to say DeFi is the future, because Visa is one of the anchors of centralized finance. So there's DeFi and there's centralized finance, right? But we'll see why they're starting to talk. So as the rise of digital technology continues to transform every industry, one of the emerging shifts is a move away from centralized systems to distributed architectures with more control at the edges. Now, my apologies if I come across as extremely gung-ho about this, and my apologies for any central banker who's in this room today, because what I'm about to say you may not like. The fact of the matter is that our citizens on the ground are already engaged in decentralized finance in the hundreds of millions of dollars. They are saying enough of this BS. They are saying enough of this intermediation, and we are disintermediating the financial services sector. This is not Ali Hussein saying, it is the guys on the ground who are doing it. Pay attention, guys. Pay attention. I cannot re-emphasize this issue further. So, I'm not going to confuse you a bit further. We can have these conversations. Decentralized finance and Web 3.0 are like Siamese twins. You know the term Siamese twins? We had in Web 1.0, The first days, if you are an old geezer like myself, you remember the days of email, just email, no internet, the days of dial-up. Then we came to Web 2.0, which most of us in this room understand. And Web 2.0 is anchored by what is now today known loosely as big tech. Have you guys heard the term big tech? Big tech? Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. Those are the big tech companies. Those are the guys today controlling the internet. Do not think that it is free out there. It is being controlled, for your information. I always like to give this analogy about Facebook. Facebook, or any social media platform, is like a marketplace. And in a marketplace, there are 4 key principles, or platforms, or pillars, whichever way you want to call them. Now, these pillars, number 1, for a marketplace to be there, you must have a product or service, correct? Number 2, what must you have? A buyer and seller, correct? So those are 3. The 4th one is the marketplace itself, right? So let me ask you a trick question. If you are not the marketplace, you are not the buyer, and you are not the platform, you are not the buyer, you are not the marketplace, you are not the seller, what are you? So we forgot one other, product. So if you're not the buyer, so product, marketplace, buyer, seller, those are the 4 key ones. If you're not the marketplace, you're not the buyer, you're not the seller, what are you? I rest my case. All right. I know we've run out of time, but I want to just, there are many more slides, but I'll stop here because of time. And these slides are going to be made available by my brother Jason. I want to give you a clear example of what decentralized finance and centralized finance is. Decentralized is up there. Centralized finance are all the products you know today. They're regulated. They're people who you must go to. If I want to send money to my father down in Kilifi in Nairobi, in Kenya today, I must use a conduit. If I don't use that conduit, what happens? That money. Decentralized finance says to help. I want a direct link. What are those opportunities for Africa? And what can we do to ensure that we unshackle ourselves?
We call for policies and practices that put people first. We call for policies and practices that put people first.